And I really don't see the point in anything that isn't funny. I don't watch dramas. I don't like to feel sad or watch horror movies or feel scared. I'm only about being on this planet to like eat food and drink wine and have a laugh like that and try to be generous and kind while I'm doing that. But
first of all, thank you so much for talking to Times Radio Culture Hour. We're very excited to have you on the show. So first of all, congratulations on your latest tour. Thanks. How would you subscribe your show, Mrs.?
I mean, it's a complete departure from my last tour show, which was all about rejecting the traditional shape of a family, telling anyone who felt like an outsider that they could be alone, just embracing that audaciousness of a single woman who starts to get questions about her relationship status after a certain age. I said, I don't want a man. Men are like dolphins. They should be enjoyed on holiday. Why would you have one in the house? And I really meant it when I said that. I really, really meant it when I said that. And then I bumped into my high school boyfriend and married him 6 months later. And now I have this very traditional family. I have a boy and a girl and a husband. We spend a lot of time at home. And so my new show, Mrs., is all about that 180 that my life has taken and what married life with a baby has been like for me.
Do you want to give other people, not necessarily hope, but just a sort of an option that life can be different and it does change when you're going down one pathway and narrative, it can all change for the better?
Yeah, I think my main goal has always been to empower, firstly, women, but equally anyone who feels like an outsider, anyone who feels like they might be damaged goods or that they've failed somewhere, that they're doing things the wrong way or they don't fit into the traditional mold. Because I do think when you feel good about yourself, then you're likely to make better choices and have a better life. So I think first and foremost, it's about that confidence and that acceptance. But also I've learned with the pandemic and with everything else that you just can't have that much control over your life. You can't engineer your future the way you thought maybe that you could, and that life is always there to prove you wrong and to surprise you, so that you should be prepared for anything. Certainly try to be very flexible, because I found there's like an odd element of destiny that I really feel meeting Bobby again. It's just too weird. And I did always love him. He was always, my first love. And I think the reason people have connected with this story is there's a real feeling of freedom in not being responsible for your own life. You could just, you do you have a nice time, try to be generous and kind, and life really looks after itself. It has a plan for you.
Well, thank you. Sorry, I was mesmerized a bit. I was like, yes, I love it.
I do think so. I think like there's nothing that I could have done to engineer this. I saw it came out of nowhere. And I think same with COVID, came out of nowhere. Lockdown came out of nowhere. Like there are terrible things that we found can happen, but also there are wonderful surprises around the corner. So to always have that optimism.
But it's very much appreciated. And I know you just touched on some of the big changes for you in your life the past couple of years. As you mentioned, married, had a baby. Is that an awful lot of material for you to draw upon? Or do you ever lack inspiration?
I think I found that it was difficult to be funny during lockdown, just the collective grief of what was going on. I had an easy time of things, relatively speaking, but even now you can't help but turn on the news and just feel the weight of this collective grief. If it's not about conflict, it's about the climate or people's health or this pandemic. There's just so much. I do find it difficult to be funny in those times because you never want to feel like you're diminishing anyone else's experience. But then you have to remember that, it's important to try to have a laugh, even when things are really bad, and to try to look to like a positive release somewhere, even with difficult subjects. So, in our family, we've dealt with pregnancy loss and the pandemic and COVID and everything else. And I just try to find some sort of light in that darkness and write comedy from there.
Well, I'm sure it's very much appreciated. I very much appreciate it. And I wanted to ask about your podcast. So it's telling everybody everything. Yeah. But is there anything you're careful not to share just to make sure you protect yourself and don't sort of expose it? Or are you just an open book? And is that, do you think, part of your appeal and that's why we all love you?
Yeah, well, we don't all love me, but
Well,
I
lots of
don't.
us do.
That's really kind of you to say. But I feel like for me, I'm an open book, and the type of people that I like and the type of comedians that I like are the ones who tell me secrets, who are very much open books with me. The people who give me the most disclosure, I feel like that's a language of trust and of love. And that's why I love comedians. I'll be like, tell me everything. Like, give me the biggest gossip you can. What's going on? And comedians are so straight in with the big talk, no small talk. Those are the people that I love. And that's how I hope to be, because I feel like everything is about connection. And I like to offer that to people. The only thing I'm mindful of is protecting my family. I never want my family to feel like they've been exploited. Luckily, my family are kind of open books, just like me, my sisters and my mom, certainly. But my daughter is reaching an age now where she's nearly 13. She doesn't know that she needs privacy. She doesn't really mind, but I've sort of made her take a back seat just because I feel like that's such a formative, delicate time in a young woman's life. I'm like, oh, she needs some privacy. And I've heard stand-up comedians before talk about their daughters, exclusively men, by the way, talk about their daughters' bodies and their daughters' experiences at that age. And I've always felt a bit funny about it. And we all have our own boundaries, but that for me is a boundary, is like, Violet now is entering this very weird time. You remember what it was like to be a teenage girl. I feel like
Yeah.
that doesn't need to be on a world stage, but she loves to be on the podcast. She's always like, can I come give my advice? I'm like, oh, and now she really wants to be on social media. And I'm like, okay, well, I let her just a few pictures, but I talk about her very little on stage now.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
You're known for being outspoken. We've
Mhm.
just had International Women's Day. Do you think more and more women need to keep talking and speaking about their experiences, or just sharing their opinions and thoughts more?
I do think so. I think as long as it makes people uncomfortable, then women need to keep being confident. And I wouldn't use the word outspoken, because I mean, I think just I don't think it is, outspoken just to be assertive and confident and honest, but sometimes that's seen as being these negative things, like she's like too outspoken. I think sometimes being too much is just enough. And my character in either The Duchess on Netflix or my character on stage is very purposefully too much, because I think that it creates space for women who've been told to be small and to be quiet and to be shy and to be subservient. I think it creates space for them to be more authentic and to be more confident. And that's always what I'm trying to do. I don't actually walk around my life like that. I'm
Of
just
course
like
not.
a big personality on stage, because I feel like people need to be rumbled a bit, get a little bit uncomfortable. They still dislike confident women on stage. On TV, when I made The Duchess, there were all these questions from production, and that's not their fault. It's coming from audiences of like, well, how is she going to be likable though? We need to like her. How is she likable? Well, Tony Soprano wasn't considered unlikable, even though he was like quite a bad man in The Sopranos. And I don't think that women are uh, sort of taken, what's the word? I think that we still have a little ways to go in terms of women's confidence being celebrated the way that a man's confidence is celebrated.
I could not agree more. And I think you just touched on the language that we associate with women, like
Yeah.
gossiping, hysterical, all these really negative connotations, even outspoken. I apologize for using it now, but
Well,
even
you
saying,
didn't. Yeah.
saying we're outspoken, what, just because we're voicing how we feel. It's really, really interesting. And I wanted to ask you as well, I don't want to just put the fact that, oh, you're a woman and you're funny, oh, that's so different. But
Mm.
as a woman in comedy, or just as you in comedy, do you feel there are different challenges compared to other people that have been, before you, or are very popular now as well?
Um, I'm not sure anymore. I feel very peaceful and positive about the fact that I'm seeing more representation in British comedy. I feel like that extends not only to genders, but sexual orientations, ethnicities, different socioeconomic backgrounds. My friend Rosie Jones is a disabled woman who's got, I think, 4 new commissions or 3 new commissions on Channel 4. She's brilliant. I didn't see that much a variety in voices in comedy when I first started. So I think it's gone in a wonderful direction. I think I found that when I was starting comedy, there were more hurdles because of my gender than there are now. Now I pretty much move through the world as a straight white man, basically. You know what I mean? I have lots of privileges. And when I started, though, I could see why it's more difficult for women to make it on the road, because I'm not as safe on a night bus all alone coming back from a gig as some of my male counterparts are. Or maybe they could pitch in together when they're starting out and they're just like scraping pennies together. They can all sleep in the booker's apartment on the floor. You know what I mean? They can do things that are unsafe potentially for a woman to do. And then when I was a young mom, I had to get home. I wouldn't be staying over in these places. Do you know what I mean? I just had to conduct myself with a certain level of vigilance because all my work happened at night. So I see that level, the starting out level, is more difficult for women. And I think that's where a lot of the sexism still lives too, because we're very inclusive and progressive on television once you make it to that point. But it's the bookers, the old school bookers who have the gig at the bottom of the pub, and not all of them, but some, I think, can be more traditional in their views about who's funny and who isn't. So it's always those women like that I think about, those who would have become like me if it hadn't been so tough at the start. You know, I can't imagine how many women didn't make it past that bit and just went, you know what, this is all too much. I'd rather have a family. I can't do it. And unfortunately, women sometimes have to make that choice where the men don't as much, I don't think.
Yeah, I really agree with that. You're just talking about women having, you know, you're saying with, you know, as a single mom and, you know, breaking into comedy with that lifestyle. You know, when you've got a family constantly on the move, how do you find the time to do everything? Like, how do you find the time to cook healthy, proper meals for your family and balance things?
Well, I'm really lucky that my husband, Bobby, is a stay-at-home dad, and he does most of the cooking, but we have been loyal fans of Gusto recipe boxes for a number of years. And now I'm very fortunate to have started working with them to try to spread the message about their goodness to everyone. And they have just such a range of healthful meals, nutritious meals, fake away Fridays, cheat meals, like really indulgent meals. It's not all health based. There's vegan, there are like cheeseburgers, all kinds, everything you can imagine. Gusto has restaurant quality, delicious food. And now they've partnered with the charity Absent to try to tackle the issue that so many of us are facing, which is loss of taste and smell or change in taste and smell following recovery from COVID.
Was that something you suffered, a loss of?
Yeah, my husband and I, we tested positive in August, and it was really mercifully quite mild for us. It was a bit tricky because Fred was just born. So we were navigating like having a newborn with not having any energy. Have you had COVID?
Yes, I have several times.
Several times.
Twice.
How many times?
And I think maybe I had it at the beginning, but I think we've all, you know, had it.
No.
I lost my sense of smell as well.
Did you?
Like wine and chocolate, 2 of my favorite things.
I know.
Enjoy them.
Well, I was lucky
it's minor compared to everyone else, but
well, that's what we all say. But I mean, it's meaningful. Your senses are very meaningful to you, and you don't realize how impactful they are to your quality of life until they're gone. And especially in lockdown, there were very few things to really indulge in. There was food, and then a lot of people couldn't taste their food. I never lost taste, and I was still drinking coffee in the morning and eating. And then Bobby said to me, weeks after our recovery, he said, "Oh, do you know, I was cooking garlic and I couldn't smell it. We can't smell." I said, "Of course we can smell it." I brought him things around the house to smell. And it was this amazing discovery that I actually couldn't smell them. I hadn't noticed because I was either too busy with the baby or too tired, or I was still tasting. And I thought all the messaging was, if you can taste, you can smell, but we couldn't smell. And it's never really returned to the full intensity that it once was. And that does impact flavors. So even though I think I can taste, it's not as rewarding as it used to be. I can't smell the kitchen, the cooking of the garlic and things like that I used to smell. And it's come back a bit. I would describe it now as I can smell quietly, but I'm using these smell training kits from Gusto on the flavor-savior.co.uk website. You kind of reawaken that part of your brain that's responsible for smell. And they have different strong smells like eucalyptus and clove and lemon and rose. And it's interesting to just be mindful, take that proactive step to get your smell back, because there's very little intervention for loss of smell, but smell training has been proven to be quite effective. So you just like smell it for a bit, see how you get on. It surprised me that the rose is the one I could smell the least. And then hopefully over time, that part of your brain just starts to get the message and smell everything more intensely and unlock your flavors. And I have noticed that there's been an improvement since I started doing that. And the kits are free. There's a limited amount of them, but they are free on the website to try.
Well, I'm really pleased that you're doing something to kind of train those senses, where you can train them back. One thing I just wanted to ask you is, you do nail British humour. I think you just, I mean, I know you do you classify yourself as British? I mean, I don't.
Ethnically, I'm Irish and British.
Right.
My family's from mostly Ireland, but also like Dorset and Wales. And like, I don't know, I feel like there is some ancestral vibes in all of us. I know the Irish are really good storytellers, and I've connected with the sense of humor here from the start. I came about 15 years ago, and I just think people here are so funny. And I really don't see the point in anything that isn't funny. I don't watch dramas. I don't like to feel sad or watch horror movies or feel scared. I'm only about being on this planet to like eat food and drink wine and have a laugh like that, and try to be generous and kind while I'm doing that. But I love it. Everyone's funny. You don't have to be a comedian to be funny in the UK. I just think everyone takes the mick. Everyone likes, banter. Everyone's funny.
What a brilliant mantra. Eat, drink, and be funny.
That's amazing. Like what it's all about. Some people really like to have a good cry though. My husband, he loves like the Oscar movies. He'll watch like Moonlight and cry. I'm like, why would you do that to yourself? But he finds it very cleansing. So we're all different.
Katherine, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for this Times Radio.
Thank you for your time.
Good luck with the rest of the tour and everything else.